I'd like to welcome the viewers to the live broadcast as part of the 2018 Forum of ECOSOC on Resilient and Inclusive Societies. And I have the privilege to be here with four excellent speakers on the theme Leveraging Big Data for Development, and particularly about how we can collaborate in the private and public sector in the use of this data. Let me introduce our guest speakers, and I start here with Eddy Mukooyo. He is the chairperson of the Agenda AIDS Commission. Uganda AIDS Commission. María Blanco, director from GSMA. This is a mobile phone industry association that globally operates. We have Anil Arora, the chief statistician from Statistics Canada, and we have Robert Kirkpatrick, director of UN Global Pulse. I would like to direct myself to the four of you regarding the use of big data for public good in particular, and particularly how we can actually collaborate in the private and public sector to actually start using that data. But at the same time, when we start using this big data, there are also sort of concerns that we have to look at in addition to the opportunities that we have, and I think we should address that for the audience. Also, when we start using it, becoming in a new space, normally in different sort of environment. And then particularly, I also would like to ask you whether you have particular sort of advice on actions that we want to take. Now, with that, these sort of guiding questions, I would like to ask Anna, if you can give your perspective from GSMA.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It was very, very nice to be with you guys here today. And I would like to start highlighting the value and the opportunities that are brought up by big data. It's something that the mobile industry is using already, using big data for social good. And we are actually saving lives. Is that impactful, the power that big data has used in the proper way? Not to mention that that will help us actually achieve some of the SDGs by 2030. So it's a way, it's a tool that we have right at our hands to use it. Like you point out, there are risks and challenges around the data. It's something that the mobile industry is also very concerned about. Privacy, security, the value of some of the data, the stewardship of the data. All those are pretty serious challenges and concerns. But I don't think that's something that should stop us from figuring out how to overcome those challenges and then realize the opportunity of the data. And to close, you called for a call for action, and that's my favorite part. Because I think the big data puts us in a situation where we have to work together, private sector, like ourselves, with governments, with international organizations. And we need to keep in mind our common goal of sustainable development, and the 2030 Agenda is a great framework for us all to have that common north. So if we keep that in mind and how challenging that goal is, we need to innovate, we need to scale. And that's something that we hear every day here at the UN, but it becomes so repetitive that in real life, when we do present innovation, people get scared. So let's get over that and let's really embrace innovation and scalability that big data presents to us.
Thank you, Anna. Great, thank you. Eddy, from your perspective, from the Uganda AIDS Commission perspective, also particularly because you're an expert in the digital health information system, maybe your perspective on these issues.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm happy to be here on the panel to discuss the issue of big data. In Uganda, we had the opportunity where we had a liberalization policy, and we had proliferations of all these telecommunications industry and the deep penetration of mobile phones. However, we also realized that in order to achieve universal coverage, as we try to attain sustainable development goals, we must reach the people who are in the hard-to-reach areas, out of the cycle of people who are always missed from the traditional services, either because of poverty or because of the outliers. So we thought hard and looked at opportunities we had in Uganda. And we realized we had one of the innovation labs, UN Pulse Lab, Kampala. And I was like, wow, what does it do? And I was like, wow, let's engage and see what we can do better together. And immediately were telling me that they can take advantage of big data. And you know, a lot of these data sets are available, but because of the normal statistical analysis, we don't do much about it, let alone the capacity. So we thought that this is a big opportunity for us to engage and collaborate with the Pulse Lab Uganda, UN Pulse Lab Kampala. And we looked immediately, how can we take advantage of the big data? And immediately that came to our mind was, one, why don't we look at all these data sets that are generated by mobile industry? Wonderful. And look at the mobility of people vis-a-vis the epidemics. And immediately we were able to highlight hotspots for epidemics, let alone predict where the next epidemics were going to happen. Right. And this helped with the mitigation and control of typhoid we had and cholera. And people started realizing the value of big data. And we said, wow, what else can we do? And indeed, we said, there's a lot of all these, we thought out of the box, and immediately that what came to us was all this proliferation of community radios. We have over 250 radios across the country. We said, wow, what if we tagged in and able to get the people's voices, to tell us what they think, the perceptions they have about diseases, epidemics. This would then inform the policymakers, inform people, put in place programs for intervention. And indeed, we pilot tested this in Lorenzori sub-region and in the north, in West Nile, using support from a Belgian corporation working with the UN Pulse Lab. And I'm telling you, this was phenomenal. We worked with the district leaders, we worked with all opinion leaders and the health workers, and how we can, what are the priority areas they thought that we could tag, so that the solution that had been developed can filter through those areas, and we pilot test, we prioritize those areas as we listen in from the radio. And we're able to prioritize and able to see that, yes, people are concerned about poverty. People are concerned about the attitude of health workers. People are concerned about the availability of drugs. People are also concerned about access to services. And all these were able to filter through and inform the decision makers, the people who put in place services. In Uganda, we have a local government structure. So the chairperson of the district was able to bring to the attention of the council the issues that people are saying. And they are able, therefore, to put resources, targeted resources, in the priority area that are being defined by the people. Excellent. So that there is a match between the resources, the intervention, and people's needs. And therefore, using through the radio, you were able to assess the satisfaction levels of these people.
Excellent.
Of course, we had challenges. How do we keep this big data safe? People wanted it immediately. They said, can we share? And immediately, question that came up, how do we protect people's identity? Yeah. Do we anonymize it? Do we encrypt it? How do we share this information? And that has been a big challenge for us. But luckily for us, in the Parliament, the policy on data privacy is in Parliament right now. And hopefully this, once approved by Parliament, it will be able to enforce how we manage these big data sets. Nice. And we think that big data is something crucial moving forward, especially if we want universal coverage to attain our sustainable.
Excellent example of Uganda's application. Anil, from your perspective as Chief Statistician of Canada.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's hard not to get infected by the enthusiasm
exactly.
of Anna and Eddy. We really are at a data revolution. When you look at the kind of problems that we've had for a long, long time, and really the kind of opportunities now that we have to be able to fundamentally go deep into the interrelated nature of many of our social, economic, environmental issues. And the SDGs are a perfect frame, as has been said, to try and actually bring a lot of these partnerships together and to actually create and solidify a number of partnerships. So you see an explosion of data that's coming to us from whether it's sensors, whether it's administrative data, whether it's even traces, if you like, of where actions have left a trace of data. And so I think a couple of points. I would want to ensure that the role of national statistical offices is not undermined or undervalued at this point, because while there's that excitement and there's an opportunity, I think there's a real risk as well that we should counteract, which is that more data does not necessarily lead automatically to more information and by default better decisions. In fact, the science of statistics is something that we have developed and we have proven, and something that we have put out there for decades, if not centuries, and to make sure that we are actually addressing the biases that may be inherent in various sources, the lack of understanding of the universe or the population or some of the limitations of that data is something that requires, and that's where there's an opportunity, in a sense, to bring the private, the public sector, and statisticians and data scientists together to make sure that we're doing the kind of work that we need to do in a responsible way. So a couple of themes that have been mentioned are really around privacy and confidentiality.
Yeah.
Well, this is something that national statistical offices have been doing for a long, long time. And so I think it is an opportunity to bring the strengths of all the various parties together to actually take part in redefining the opportunities that are presented by big data.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Anil. Robert, you've been working in this area for, well, basically your whole life. But particularly also from the UN Global Post perspective as a director, you've been, evangelizing this for a big part of your life. So your perspective on this?
Well, it's been a long process of getting here, but the world has changed, and how people think about the value of data and the risks of data has matured in ways that are quite exciting, and I think leave me quite optimistic about where this can go. Essentially, we have seen over the past few years this massive investment in exploratory research to understand the applications of big data. So in some cases, it's about more efficient, more granular, higher frequency approaches to measurement of progress and development. In other cases, it's about situational awareness to understand what's happening in a crisis. And still others, it's about developing predictive analytics that let you manage emerging risks as you implement your programs on a daily basis. Smarter, more effective, more modern organizational processes. And that's, I think, what we're seeing, particularly in our partnership with Uganda, is that some of these very cutting-edge applications of deep learning technology to digital mobility patterns from mobile devices, to speech and indigenous languages on rural FM radio programs, can really create new kinds of actionable information virtually out of thin air in places where it's traditionally been very difficult to get actionable insights. That's game-changing.
Yeah.
But you have to manage the risks as well. And what makes this data so valuable also makes it so risky. Anyone who works in the space of big data knows that this stuff is notoriously difficult to anonymize. Even if you take out the obvious personal information, where we go, what we buy and sell, when we make calls and from where, turn out to be, over time, the data set's large enough, as unique as our fingerprints or our DNA. What I think is less well recognized, that we think is equally important to understand in the years ahead, is that while the risks to privacy around big data haven't been adequately addressed in the majority of regulatory frameworks out there today, an even bigger issue, perhaps, is the non-use of data. The ongoing failure to apply these new technologies and new information sources for smarter public services, better early warning systems, more effective crisis response, institutional modernization, and accountability is an opportunity cost that people have been paying for all of these years without even knowing it. To move forward, a few things need to happen. The example of Uganda that we're seeing. This is a government that has taken this bold step where there isn't really a playbook of figuring out how to operationalize this in ways that can make a difference while also grappling with the very real privacy challenges. What we're seeing in the mobile industry is thrilling, frankly, because for the first time we're seeing an industry-wide approach, not only to the SDGs, but to putting the data to work for the SDGs in ways that also are making sure there's a business model there and there's an ethical code of conduct underlying it. I think what's still missing, frankly, is ordinary people, because what's going to change all of this and take it to scale is when the average person on the street realizes that all the data that they've been producing for all these years it's been used by business, it's been used in various ways they don't understand and control, could be also used in all of these ways to help them. And they're going to want to take ownership of this and make sure that what is done in a transparent way and an accountable way, and from a business perspective, a sustainable way, that gets us all to 2030.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I would really like to thank you all for providing your perspective. I think this makes a strong call. There's a lot of opportunities that we see. We see a lot of challenges. The opportunities are there in basically taking hold of the data and start applying it for crisis management, as you have indicated, in terms of predictive analysis, in terms of official statistics, but it needs a strong partnership. I think that was clearly indicated that partnership is necessary with those that own the data, that have the cloud environment to actually start using those data, but also bringing the strengths of statistical science, data science to bear to actually start applying it. And indeed also starting to demonstrate how well this data can be used also to the ordinary people, and starting to take ownership of that data and trying to use it for the public good. I'd like to thank you all for your insights. And I'd like to thank the viewers for being with us. And with that, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers.